HIS Ignites Minds is back with another very interesting and invigorating session for the children, parents, and teachers. And as always, I've been telling HIS Ignites Minds is to ignite a spark within all of us as responsible individuals towards the society, as students, parents, and teachers, because all of us have a role to perform. And when we at Hindustan International School began HIS Ignites Minds, we wanted to expose children to those wonderful individuals in the society who have made a life for themselves, a name for themselves through sheer hard work, and have chosen different paths to make that wonderful glory come to them. So on behalf of everyone at Hindustan International School, may I welcome each one of you to this very special edition of HIS Ignites Minds on the cyber world, the good and bad. And as I had mentioned in my introductory points, we're all literally living in the digital and virtual world, not understanding that apart from the good and the glamour and the glitz and everything wonderful that we see, there is a flip side to it also. Not going much into the details because I would love our speakers, eminent speakers, to talk about it. We are very, very fortunate to have Dr. Kannan Girish with us today. Doctor, welcome to you. To speak in brief about this very wonderful gentleman and a great human being. He is an MBBS and MD psychiatry, consultant psychiatrist, psychotherapist and counselor, founder and CEO, Live Life Education Private Limited. He is a reputed psychiatrist and is also the founder of CEO of Live Life Education. And what made him take up this profession, or what has driven him to touch so many lives, I will want to hear it from him. He has observed the youth of today, and he noticed that they are being overwhelmed with various problems such as academic pressure, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, stress-related disorders, and many more to name. The problems more often than not overwhelm than drive the unequipped children to the edges. And he realized that often children lack the will and strength to overcome these barriers and hence fail to achieve their fullest potential. He has been recognized internationally for his work on child disorders, especially the lives of children of alcoholics. His years of engagement with children resulted in one big question that haunted his mind for long. While our education system attempts to prepare our children to be industry ready, are the systems ensuring that children are life ready? A very, very pertinent question. How his organization of Live Life Education came around, I would love to hear it from him. Talking about his achievements and awards, the list is long, but I would definitely want to mention a few. For transforming the lives of youth, Dr. Kannan was honored with Award of Excellence by His Excellency Shri Pranab Mukherjee on WHO World Health Day in April 2017. Dr. Kannan Girish was honored by Thiru Sengotian, Minister of School Education, Government of Tamil Nadu, on the 100th birth celebrations of Dr. M.G. Ramachandran for his contribution to the cause of rural students. In 2017, Roundtable of India recognized his work and honored him with the title The Pride of Tamil Nadu Award 2017. In 2016, he received the Times of India Edu Icon Award from Thiru K. Pandiyarajan, Honorable former Minister for School Education, Sports and Youth Welfare, for his pioneering effort in addressing students-related issues and creating impactful positive changes to education in Tamil Nadu. In 2015, he was the youngest person in India to receive the Times of India Edupreneur Award 2015 from Ms. Kiran Bedi for his exemplary commitment and impactful positive contribution to education in India. Dr. Kannan, it is not only an honor, but a pride to have you with us today, and we're all waiting to hear you. And before we go ahead with you, I would also like to introduce the other speaker, young and very dynamic, the Additional Superintendent of Police Vigilance and Anti-Corruption, 2009 batch Group 1, Ms. S.P. Lavanya. She has been serving in the Law and Order Cybercrime Cell, CBCID. She has vast experience in cybersecurity and investigation and has handled various sensitive cases, including online child pornography. Her area of specialization is social engineering and dark web analysis, and she is the proud recipient of the Chief Minister's Award 2 years ago. Madam Lavanya, it is our honor to have you with us on this forum of HIS Ignites Minds. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be part of you all.
Wonderful. Now, before I go ahead, I would request Dr. Kannan Girish to speak to us what led him to what he is today. not taking much time more of the audience. Dr. Karan Girish, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a great honor and privilege for me to be here. So such a distinguished audience, and distinguished Lavanya ma'am is also there. So for me, my life started way back in 2008-9, where I had this intense urge to do something for younger generation. And when I used to sit in my clinic, they used to come with a lot of problems, and we used to do a lot of counseling. At the end of the counseling, all these children will come back and tell me only two answers, predominantly, which will come. You come and attend my class in my school and see, sir. Then only you will understand the problem I am going through. The second child will say, sir, very simple. You live with my parents for one day, sir. You will give me national award for living with them for so long. So this used to keep coming a lot. And I used to really wonder, where is the problem lying? And one child that came into my clinic really changed my life. This was a child with hyperactivity. Very, very nice, lovely child, but very hyperactive. The biggest complaint was whichever marriage he goes, he will pull everybody's dhoti down. So you can imagine the trauma the parents go through. So this child, I gave counseling and everything, but unfortunately, the next day, this child was dismissed from the school by the principal for being a disruptive child. And subsequently, the father hit the child. And that day evening, this child committed suicide by jumping from the top of a building. So that death really shook me from within, because I felt that child should have lived. Given a chance, that child should have lived. So that day I realized to myself to take it on as a mission that no child should ever commit suicide in this world. With that interest, I started this organization called Live Life Education in 2011. And by the grace of God, today we have done our programs to more than 2.5 lakh students. We work with close to 75 schools and 23 different universities across India. So the core of what I do today is very simple. I want children to feel empowered, loved, skilled, and really be able to guide them as a way of culture in habitual patterns, rather than always sitting and counseling them and telling them what to do and what not to do. They need to get empowered. So empowering the children through lovely habits. So that's where I am really working on towards creating those kind of schools which really empower the children. Yeah.
Doctor, when you say empowering the children, I think we all as teachers, parents, and educators need to recognize that every child is different and unique in his or own way. And once that understanding comes, teaching them or guiding them is not going to be a problem. And about expectations, I will come back to you later.
Sure.
Thank you so much for that. Madam Lavanya, we would love to hear it from you. How did you even think of taking up such a sensitive profession, as you look so proud about it today? You look so owned about it today. How did you even think about it?
Being a part of civil service is always my dream from my childhood. When in my interesting part is my initial itself is SP actually. When she took attendance on the fund, she just raised her head and asked, "Who is that?" And I raised, "Are you going to become a police officer?" Till that time, I didn't have that idea at all. But that seed she saw on me when I entered 6th standard was always in my mind, and civil service was always my dream. So once I finished my college, I prepared for civil service, and luckily I got the service which my teacher dreamt and even my mom dreamt. That's how. And policing is actually a very, very interesting area for the women to work on, because we women always empathize and sympathize on the issues much better. We can understand the issue on a wholesome basis, social, economical. Whenever a crime occurs, we won't see it, how it is happening, what is the reason behind it. And moreover, the crime against women and children are increasing in a higher number. So definitely, women should come to policing, and it is a very interesting area to work on also.
Ma'am, that's wonderful to hear, and it's so nice to hear that a teacher sowed the seed of that interest or that motivation to you. So I think all the teachers who are listening to me, we must understand that it's so important for us to, lay the right seed for the child to capture and build his own castle or dream or his empire. Thank you, ma'am, once again. Now, to both of you, my question is, as I said in my introductory remarks, we have literally shifted from a real world to the virtual world. and we find everything so raw. It was difficult in the beginning. The apprehensions were there. The struggle was there, but suddenly we found everything so comfortable. We could go to a classroom from the comfort of our homes. Every teacher could log in from anywhere that she is. Every child could study from wherever he or she is. And we had so many options to go, so many websites to reach. We didn't have to go to the library to pick up books. We didn't have to go searching for reference book. Everything was available at the click of a button. But the same click of the button could lead us to, could lead us to sites which are not even welcomed, which could be in one word, I would say, dangerous. And I think our children and all of us should understand the flip side to the digitalization of education. I would love to hear your remarks on that and the kind of concerns that we need to be careful about. Doctor, can I begin with you first? Mr. Hamid, if you could just mute all the other spectators.
I'm done.
Thank you. Yes, doctor.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, doctor.
Hello?
Doctor,
I'm
yes.
audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome. So I think this online education is, I would always say it's like a fire, fire. So fire given in the right hand can be used for cooking. The same fire in the wrong hands can be used to burn yourself or burn the house down. So it's like a great opportunity, but there are a lot of pitfalls also inside of the opportunity. I will tell you this in a two context phenomenon. So now let's look at the first context. Now let's say a child who gets this online education, the teacher can be anywhere. The child has got great access to great technology, learning.
I think Dr. Kannan's got disconnected or something. I mean, we are kind of prepared for these kind of technical glitches. Lavanya, madam, if you could just continue till Dr. Kannan could join us back again.
Yeah. As Kannan sir rightly pointed out, it is like a fire. I used to say it has to be used as an electricity. Once the electricity was invented, you cannot say that just because you get a shock, you cannot use it. You cannot sit in the dark. That's how you insulate yourself to use the current. That is how you have to use the online medium. See, the education has become online. All the facilities has become online. That students, the last year and this year is a major jump in the technological field, even in education. The way they use the online medium for education and the access to the devices, and we parent cannot restrict the devices from the students. That parents have to understand first. And in every school, in every platform, wherever I go, what I say is, please don't ask the students not to use the technology. Most of the parents say, don't touch it, don't use that, don't use that. If you use the word don't, they'll definitely try to explore it. We have to tell them, use it, but use it wisely. Know that you are safe. Use the safety measures. That's how we can guide them. And it is a challenge too. It is not easy. It's a challenge too. Because as a parent or as a teacher of a previous generation, we are more skeptical in using the technology more than the children. And to be very honest and frank, even though I am a techie and using a system, my laptop suddenly crashed and I'm using my son's 7th standard studying son's laptop. And in his laptop, I never done USB tethering. I called him and asked how to do USB tethering in your laptop. That is how the technology is. That is where we are. That is the thing that students are far ahead. So we should be prepared for it, and we should be able to guide the child also.
Absolutely, ma'am. Ma'am, Dr. Kannan, you're back. Thank you so much. I think we'll just continue from No issues, doctor. We're ready for
What,
all those.
what I said is like, see, using of the technology, in my opinion, is like fire. You know, you can use a fire for cooking. You can use a fire for so many other nice purposes, but at the same time, in the wrong hands, it can even burn you completely. So it's the same way with technology. Today, the world has become really, really flat. You know, I can sit over here and my daughter can learn a class from someone in Delhi, learn a coding class from someone in Los Angeles. It doesn't matter today. So that means what? A globe has become a stage right now. And it's our children. We need to empower our children to use it in the right sense. Now, say, for example, I see a lot of children today addicted to video games. Now, mom and dad have given the laptop. They say it is an online class. Another session is running in the parallel, which is a video game that they are playing together. The second thing I have seen, they are seeing the online class. Outside, it looks like a pakka online class they are attending. Here in the side, they're doing personal chatting that is going on. Hey, which movie did you see? Hey, where are you? Hey, send me that photograph. And we are thinking they're attending online class. You know, the mother is thinking online class. Suddenly you push them out. The chat box is running much better than the online class. So, see, the children, see, at the end of the day, we really need to realize we are not a generation today in India that was trained for online education. We are a generation that was forced for online education. Now, that's a different thing. So we were.
I think the pandemic actually digitalized us completely.
Exactly. Yes. Until March, everything was kept closed. Hey, computer now, don't touch that. Don't do this. Don't do that. After, in fact, I remember one child telling me this very beautifully. Sir, till March, my teachers were telling, don't come online. Don't waste your time. Don't do this. Suddenly from April, come online. Everything is online. Life is online. I am there. Why, sir? Suddenly, oru maasathula eppadi sir ivanga eppadi maarnaanga? Which is very funny for me also to see. But see, again, at the end of the day, I always say this: good or bad, everything has its own opportunity when used in the right format, in the right sense, with the right knowledge. Now, look at my daughter. I'll tell you, in the online education, she has a coding teacher from Madurai, one of a very good coding teacher from Madurai. She has a maths teacher from Delhi. She has her drama class from Mumbai. And now she is based out of Chennai. But thanks to online, she's got a whole pan-India best approach. So that means what? Tomorrow, I can sit in just on my laptop and learn any skill I want, upskill myself, reskill myself. And that's where the world is going to move. Now, if you look at all the companies, they're telling all their employees, either you upskill or you kind of perish off. So that means what? This is the biggest opportunity for you. And it is your job to use this opportunity very well. But at the same time, parents have to realize children are children at the end of the day. And today, the school has become the house. The house has also become the playground. House has also become the entertainment zone. Everything is happening inside the house. So there are multiple roles. There will be a little pitfalls, but it is for us parents to and teachers to empower the children on the pitfalls and keep them, like how Lavanya ma'am said, keep them aware of what's wrong and what's good and educate them in a friendly atmosphere and not a strict atmosphere. That's my take on that.
Doctor, you're right, because I think whenever any new electronic gadget came into our lives, there were apprehension, there was fear. Even when the mobile phone came into our hands, I still remember our age-old old little Nokia thing when we were excited to message and text. Today we've come to almost watching movies on our mobile phones. But then over a period of time, I think we understood there was good, there was bad, but how do we educate the children of this generation who are far, far ahead of us about, the danger that is lurking behind all this? I mean, you can go switch on to another website, get any kind of information. But how do we make them realize that, everything is not good? All that they see on Facebook, all that they see on Instagram, so it's not all rosy.
It's not only about the website today. See, the very sad part of today, I'm sure Lavanya ma'am also will agree, is that anybody can go to Facebook or Instagram and post an ad today. And that ad can be clicked by anybody of any age group. So this way, there are a lot of companies, which are fakester companies, which are out there to grab the data of children, and then bombard them with products, credit card details and all this. So I think, in my opinion, I think CBSE has given a beautiful document about cyberbullying and cyber safety. I think what is required is for teachers to educate the parents first, have open conversations with children, Don't stigmatize if there is something that goes wrong. See, the problem arises when you stigmatize. Now, when you stigmatize, then the next time the problem happens, the child is not going to come and tell you about it. So it's to have open dialogue, listen to the children, look for signs in the children, sudden withdrawn behavior, sudden not talking to people, sudden having mood swings, staying late night for long hours. Monitor that. And then at the same time, have open conversations about things that are happening, what is going on in the world. Just have open conversation. The problem is the more you hide conversations, that's where the problem happens. The more you have open dialogues and, they have open communications about the bullying, showing about that. See, like, for example, one parent, I gave her the suggestion, take articles about cyberbullying, show it to your daughter and have a discussion, family discussion about it over the dinner. So something like that where you have open conversations of topics that you don't speak of. That's the first thing. Second, always when you talk to children, give real case examples. Children don't want to be told, don't do that, don't do this. Then they only want to do that.
They don't like to hear
Their
a no.
interest is only that. All 24/7, they are thinking only about what you said, don't do. All what you said, do has been forgotten then. So my take for that is very simple. Rather than saying, don't do that, don't do this, have an open conversation. Talk to them about it. Tell them about it. Engage them about it. Ask them their opinions about it. Ask them how they came up with that opinion. Rather than advising, let's look at collaborating with them and making them aware. Second, please don't the more you try to hide things, the more they want to explore things. The more the things are open and have open conversations, the more the children are okay and they identify which is right and which is wrong much, much, much easier. So this is my take on that.
Absolutely, doctor. Lavanya ma'am, coming to you, and as doctor mentioned about cyberbullying and all those, sensitive things that we need to handle the children with. How would you do it? I think you just mentioned you yourself have an adolescent at home. When it comes to very sensitive topics like cyberbullying or things which are not supposed to foray into, how would you advise us or how would you advise the children about it? Now, adolescence is such an age where the child, wants to start being by himself. He doesn't want to be said or told or guided or mentored. Yes, as doctor said, open conversation is a wonderful idea. But coming from somebody from a profession, from someone like you, how would you advise us?
Yeah. With regard to the cyber crimes against children, yes, definitely it's happening in big number. The variation of degree is from milder to most aggressive. And first part is about the awareness among the parents or the guardians who are around the children. Because we are going to monitor a child in a subject which we are having less knowledge than the child. That we should be very clear. So the parents, as Kannan sir told, we should not say don't do it, don't do that. They cannot understand things beyond a point. If you say cyberbullying, they can't even imagine and see what those things are. Because as a child, from the heart of a child, if you see the world, you see only the good things, happier things, good parents, good teachers. That's it. They can't see a criminal. They cannot imagine a criminal, or they cannot imagine some wrongdoings to him. Because as a women also, we think that more than men, women think that it can happen to next door, not to us. Even such in adult age, we can't think that way. We cannot expect our children. So basically, we have to teach the children what is happening around, what can happen around. Like we started teaching the children good touch and bad touch. When we were in school, good touch and bad touch were not taught. It was taught at home, but it came to school. Like that, cyber awareness education should be taught at school. What is bullying? Nowadays, bullying physically in school is more happening than in cyber world. If you sit among the children, they'll bully each other. They don't know it is an offense at all. They'll keep bullying. All these things, we have to make them understand what is bullying. And number two, we have to teach them to whom we have to be friends with. That is more important, because most of the children are getting engaged by the criminals in the chat rooms or in the messengers or through Facebook or something like that. So the first thing we have to tell them who you can be friends with. And for that, the parents have to be taught or created awareness about it. Parents think that giving a laptop, giving them education and getting them good stuff is end of the thing. It is not so. Parents have to audit themselves at least once in a week how much time they spent with the children. It is not taking them to a hotel or drive or something. How much quality time you spent sitting with the children and talking to them. And as Dr. Kannan pointed out, we have to give national award to the child really to be with us for a day, because we put pressure on everything what we want from the child. We never listen what the child want from us. We never listen to them what is the stress they have. Even writing a homework for a page is a stress in that age. They are already seeing the monitor from morning to evening, and again they have to sit and write, again they have to upload it. All these things are current happenings right now. Even that gives a small stress, but we think that the child is in a happier merry world. What is not there for my child? Morning I'm giving this breakfast, they have a laptop, they play, they have good food. All the times I give snacks, they have online video games. But what is the child undergoing? Most of the child become a victim of cyber crime only because of the isolation psychologically, not physically. Isolation psychologically. They will not have a person to share things. That is where they are being trapped. We don't talk to the child as a child. If the child has committed a mistake, the first person to come in their mind is either parent or the teacher. We should actually gain that confidence. More than educating a child, I feel from my past experience of 7 years in cyber field and various cases I have seen, awareness among the parents and the teachers how to handle a child generally, and also how to handle a child after an offense have been committed to them, like child pornography or child bullying, anything. If something has happened to him, how to react to the child. We Indian parents have the mentality of, still now we have the mentality of beating the child or at least shouting at the child.
Putting fear into the child.
And yeah, that should not be there. In the part of the teacher, even though beating and all is over, it is an last era story. This is the gossiping about a child within the teachers. And it will be agreed. A child will be cornered. A child, that child only. No, for them, no, that cyber issue. This is how not only the students will actually support each other. The teacher will go and gossip among the teachers and the matter spreads, which I feel is more offensive than the milder version which the child would have undergone from a stranger. So as a parent and as a teacher, we should be able to gain the confidence of the child, and we should educate the child to whom they are talking, whom they are sharing the information, and whom they are sharing the pictures, and even when to switch on the camera or switch off the camera, how the pictures can go online, how in digital world anything cannot be erased. All these things can only be taught by a parent and a teacher, not by a psychologist or a cyber specialist or a police officer. Thank you.
Wonderful, ma'am. Dr. Kannan and Lavanya, ma'am, I think you're opening out our avenues of thought, open conversations, confidence building in children rather than putting in fear, and having a very nice empathetic relationship with them, I think will solve half the problems, right? So, and now going ahead, I think I will invite questions from children and parents because they're really looking forward to asking you. And Lavanya, ma'am, there was a question from one of my students saying, ma'am, what is social engineering? She read it in your profile. She wanted to know what social engineering is all about.
Yeah. Social engineering is basically both offline and online. Collecting information about a person is social engineering. For example, if I have to collect about Bharati ma'am, now I know your number. Now I have a short conversation of you from yesterday. I can correlate what are your likings, dislikings, how you do, and the place where you're sitting. I know what is the earphones you're using, the type of color of the dress you wear, what will be the related colors you will like, and the background picture which you have in your screen. Everything is, it is like creating the story about a person, both offline and online. Online is their presence in online media. For example, if Bharati ma'am is in online in Facebook, the places she has visited, what are the likes she has given, what are the pages she has disliked, what are the comments she has given, family she has, everything I can put in a story to a person. And one point of time, it is like predicting the future also, what the person will do. And even it is to be very interesting to make the students understand, social engineering is also used even in your food apps, online food ordering apps. When you order food, they continuously watch what you are ordering. So beyond a point, they'll suggest you, it is a Tuesday, you will eat pizza today. Shall we order one? That is how the message will come. That is called social engineering. Social engineering is about human hacking. It is not hacking of a computer.
Wow.
It is about hacking.
Human hacking sounds very frightening. But I think I'm glad about that. We definitely got to know what it is all about. As the children are getting ready with the questions, Dr. Kannan, I want to ask you a question.
I think one thing I can add here, Bharati.
Yes, sir.
Bharati ma'am, I think one thing you can add here from what she said, I would request all the children to watch the movie called Social Dilemma on Netflix.
Yes,
there is a documentary called Social Dilemma on Netflix. Yes, if you watch that, you will really understand what the social engineering is and how artificial intelligence, machine learning can be used to manipulate people's thinking processes and create an addictive environment. So you'll get a lot of insight because of that. Yeah.
So do we see that we're literally being controlled by machines and the social media world?
We are already controlled. We are already controlled.
But have we given ourselves so much? Doctor,
I'll give you a simple example, simple example. Say, for example, you start criticizing a particular government or a particular person, okay, or a particular event on your social media post. Then what happens is all the posts that come up to you will be people who are also criticizing the same person. And all evidences based on that, according algorithmically, it will start showing you. So that's why when you start clicking to a website which buys jewelry, you'll start getting a lot of jewelry ads everywhere. It's like that. So that's how the machine is actually, that's how the algorithm is put. And so it's a very dangerous trend, but that's how they also make money, because Facebook is free, Google is free. The only way they make money is we are the money for them. They give our data to people and they give the appropriate ads and appropriate things and they make money. So we need to understand, and I think every child needs to understand, you are the product of any social media app. You are the product. The product is not what you're buying. You are the product. You are the product they are selling to that customer over there.
It's a very, very interesting yet, apprehensive perspective. I think I had a parent, Mr. Murli, wanting to ask us a question. Mr. Murli, your question, please. Vijay, can you unmute Mr. Murli, please? And children and teachers, those who want to ask questions, please type it out here so that we can go ahead with this absolutely exciting conversation we are having. Vijay, Hamid, can you please unmute Mr. Murli?
Some technical problem, ma'am, not unmuting.
Mr. Murli, can you please check if you can unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I can. Thank you for the. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the giving the great opportunity for the parents. Okay, and thank you, Lavanya madam, as well as Girish sir, for your great lectures. It's really great. So, ma'am, actually, Lavanya ma'am, I would like to ask something like how to minimize this cyber-related things. Like, for example, I'll tell you one example. Recently, one of my colleague, right, the teacher, the kid she's in online classes. Suddenly, one pop-up message came. She clicked that one. So what happened? Suddenly, whatever the money, it's gone. Her father's money actually. that how to control this kind of cycles.
Can you please repeat the question once again, sir?
No, ma'am. Actually, kids are nowadays due to digitalization, right? Kids are using only online classes. So suddenly, what happened is the hackers will send some kind of links, right? You please click this, please use this. So recently, one scenario happened in other state. So when she clicked, right? So what are the money, right? It's gone already. So it's a sign of cyber-related things.
Okay, any link you take it can be malicious. Like if you click even in Zoom, when we click start video, it is switching on your camera automatically, right? So in the app, it is written start video. If it is stop video, but the program is written start video behind it, you never know. I'm just giving this example. So any link, it is not only the link, a program can be different in the background. So any link from a private person, or if you suspect that it can be from a stranger, don't ask the students or yourself to click the malware into a system, or it can encrypt your data, or it can steal data in it. Anything can happen depending upon the program behind it. So any link should be seen with suspicions, and you can just copy and paste the link to check whether it is a genuine link or malicious link. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am. I think we have one of our students, Gautam, wanting to ask a question.
Yes, ma'am. I thank the school for this opportunity. My question is posed to Lavanya, ma'am. Can she please describe one of the most challenging cases that she's had? Because I'm very interested to know, actually.
Sorry, Gautam, I could not hear you. I think my audio is not there. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, not a problem, ma'am. Can you please elaborate on any one of your challenging cases?
Ma'am, Gautam wants to know if any
case study. There are lots of challenging cases I have handled, but one may be the online child pornography, I'll say, where the victim is unknown. The pictures of the girl children, which were posted generally in Facebook with a neat dress, everything dressed up well, where the parents will put, my girl is dressed up in yellow color gowns, all the stuff. The page was put with a very, very, very disturbing name, the Facebook page, where it depicts child pornography, and the photos was posted about the children, and the comments were literally raping of the child online. It was a group rape. If it happens in the real world, it will be gruesome. It was online. So the real challenge in this case was, one is removing the page immediately. Number two is finding out the accused, because after you know that such a page exists, we cannot allow it to exist in the world even for 1 second. So the speed, the swiftness we have to act with the Facebook to remove the page, and in narrowing down the accused through cracking of IP address, all those stuff was, and we taking down the page was done within an hour, but cracking down of the accused took us 3 days, but we could successfully do it. Thank you.
But the more we know, I think the more intriguing it gets.
I can even share one of the cases.
I was just about to come to you, Dr.
No, I was saying there was one more case I know of where I don't know whether Lavanya ma'am was involved in that case. This happened around a couple of years back. So the boy and girl were in an affair for quite some time. And just before marriage, they just kind of broke out, and she got engaged to another guy to get married. So what this fellow did is, he creates a Facebook account, fake account. He goes, buys a card in a fake number, fake ID card, creates a fake account from a place which is a little far away from his hometown, so that it cannot be tracked through Wi-Fi. And what he has done is he has sent photos of that girl and him together, multiple, little bit edited, little bit real. And he has gone to the boy side father, the father of the boy who this girl was going to marry, and gone to all the friends' messengers and posted it on their messengers. So literally, almost to 200, 300 people got that same photograph on the messengers, multiple sides of the boy who was going to marry that particular, his ex-girl. And this became such a huge issue. The marriage was almost going to get called off. And then, a lot of things had to go, police case, and then they got to the truth. And finally, somehow they did it. But the unfortunate thing was when people came for that marriage, half of them had already seen that post. It had gone in and it had become such an embarrassing. So be very, very careful who you are, connected with online or even offline, because offline fight you can handle one-on-one. Online fight can be mopped and handled in multiple methodologies.
You never know whom you are fighting with.
You have to be very, very careful, especially I would say girls and boys both, even boys also. Be very careful what you share. I can give you one more example. This girl was talking to the guy on the phone. Okay, they've been talking some romantically. The guy the guy records the conversations completely. Then he sends the conversation to the girl's father, asking money from the girl's father. And I'm telling you, the girl's father had to pay a huge amount of money to get off all those conversations, the originals. So I'm telling you, so a lot of things happen. And the worst part is, unless this is something that they can't handle, most of this doesn't go and get noticed because they hush it up. Most of this is all hushed up. But you have to be very, very careful what you speak with strangers, what you speak with people on the phone, because everything can be, today, voice recording is such an easy app. Just 1 minute, you can voice record anything. You can screen record even your WhatsApp conversation. You think WhatsApp is nothing. You can screen record your WhatsApp conversation also. There are apps to screen record WhatsApp conversations. So they can screen record anything and they can edit it with an editing software, a simple editing software like Canva or something which is free. And they can reframe it and show it in a totally different meaning today. So be very, very careful what you talk with people on the phone and especially over the net. And my question is, please don't talk to strangers, even if they are friends of your friends, because Facebook has this habit of showing friends of friends. If you have not met people, you don't know the backgrounds, please don't talk about that. Especially your school-going girls and boys, because everybody is sitting in the house, your friend will call and tell you, my cousin is available free. He's an engineering student. He liked your profile on Facebook. Would you like to talk to him? Now, sir, you'll be simply sitting in the house. It will be very tempting. Now, that temptation will lead to something else. Please understand, I always have this theory when I talk to children. Only the fellow who has no other work will be ready to chat with you 24/7. The guy who has work will have other work to do and he will be busy doing that. So and please understand, if a guy or a girl is talking to you 24/7 romantically on the phone, then please understand you're one among many numbers that person has spoken to, because no school gives training for this. The fellow has got trained by speaking to multiple people. So you please be aware of that. Very, very important you be aware of it. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, thank you for this. Children, please remember, we're not trying to frighten you, but we're trying to make you aware of it. What, how much, and where you are now. You are a part of the whole world. The whole world is a part of you. But you have to use your discretion, and that is precisely this entire program is all about. Doctor, thank you so much for those insights. Lavanya ma'am, are you in?
Yeah, I have come back, ma'am.
Okay. We have Kavin Siddharth coming up with a question for our speakers. Kavin, go ahead, son. Kavin, you need to take care of your audio.
Can you repeat again, ma'am?
Kavin, can you please repeat your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for giving this opportunity. So basically, we have all those sites, some very harmful sites are blocked and banned from children accessing them. But then you can use VPNs to access those blocked sites. So if those blocked sites are illegal, then why is VPN legal to access those blocked sites?
Smart. Very smart. I wonder if the doctor or madam is going to take up this question.
I think madam only has to answer this.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was something called VPN.
I'm really happy and even surprised when a child speaks about VPN block sites.
I didn't know about this. I'm learning.
Yeah, because it is something which, being in technological world, I know all these things. So VPN is something where you create a virtual private network. Like you use a software so that your virtual mission will be created in your physical mission. So you can play around in that mission, shut down that mission and come out. Even if you check in the system, there will be no trace of what you have done in the VPN. So that is what VPN is all about. And VPN is not in the control of law enforcement agency or the government. As you all know, the internet world is all over the world. It is not that India has its own softwares, India has its own internet. It is not that case. So VPN is something which exists in internet. You cannot stop using an VPN. And there are n number of VPN services, both free and as well as paid. And as regarding to blocking of websites, I am really happy the child used the word blocking. So as the synonym go with the word, we are just blocking the website to come inside India. There is a website, we write to them, to the government, and the government asks the internet service providers who are providing internet. It is like closing the tap, keeping a filter for that website and closing that website alone to come inside. But VPN is not using that route to access to the website. It takes an alternative route. It is like a water. Wherever it can find another path, it goes that way and finds an alternative route to access that website. The websites would be hosted in some foreign country. We will not have control over it. Our control is restricted only to block it. That is entering to India. But we are using VPN because VPN doesn't use the internet of India. It lands in some foreign country and reaches the website. That's why we could able to see the blocked websites.
Wow. Kavin, has ma'am answered your question? My God, that was deep.
But then why is VPN legal?
You cannot have everything that is only legal, right? In the internet world, still it is an unstreamed world. It is. There are a lot of things coming up. Today, government could able to block 10 sites, which is illegal. It may be VPN sites, but tomorrow it will come up. 10 more sites will come up. Again, 10 more sites will come up. We cannot declare to the world, every country is a sovereign country. We cannot say to a guy sitting in Canada or US, don't create a VPN website. That is illegal in India. You cannot stop it, right? So that is why lots of VPN sites are coming up. VPN as such is not illegal. If you enter into a software industry, most of your work you will do in VPN because VPN is not a bad concept. VPN is a concept. It is used for good thing also. It is used for bad thing also. It is like why internet is not blocked, because a lot of illegal things are going on. Just because illegal things are going on, we cannot block it, right? That is how you cannot block VPN also.
Great. Doctor,
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kavin. Thank you, ma'am.
I have a question to Lavanya, ma'am. One question. Ma'am, then why can we find out who Tamil rockers are? Why are you not able to find out who Tamil rockers are?
Again, yeah. That is a very interesting question which we are working on. But still, the same concept of VPN and use of darknet and changing the domain names, placing servers in foreign countries, and using of email like IP spoofing. Lot of technology they use.
My God. Doctor,
No, but they are able to get the correct audience to watch their videos and movies. Correct audience is coming everywhere they go. How is that possible?
Even before the OTT came up, I think Tamil Rockers was in existence.
Tamil rockers, you say there is an internal industry mafia also going on. And also the thing is, if you are a regular user of Tamil rockers, the notification will show you the next website which they are going to launch. If it is only with a change of domain name, and it is very easy to.
Okay.
Doctor, I want you to take one
Yes,
question which has come on the chat box. The child is Nathan John has asked, ma'am, why use Facebook and Insta if there are so many problems? Is it a personal discretion? And as ma'am rightly said, there must be a good side to it also.
You're
Yes,
asking
doctor.
me, ma'am?
I want you to take up this question.
See, you should first understand for all children, I'm telling you this, please understand the history of the social media apps. So we started way back with Orkut and Mindspace, and this whole Facebook concept came as Face Smash. It was started in the dorm of Harvard Medical College because Mark Zuckerberg's girlfriend dumped him. So he wanted to, get back as his girlfriend because Mark Zuckerberg felt he's not that good looking. So what he did is he created a website for his girlfriend, and everybody were rating his girlfriend, whether she's good or ready to be smashed. So that is how it started as a fun concept. And then it went for a networking. So predominantly these were apps to network among college students. Now where the problem arises is when they start taking enormous amount of funding. So when they have started taking a lot of money inside, now you have to generate money. You can't only keep networking without money. So that's where this whole advertisements comes in. Now you need to really understand Facebook has got a clear demarcation of what are the do's and don'ts, but none of us read it. We'll all put okay, and go. And for that, they have their legal system very clear because you said, okay, I can have access to all your data. I can have access to everything because you said, okay, so they work under that domain. And second, if you look at Facebook as such, there are a lot of good things that have happened because of Facebook. I have seen it personally. You are able to connect with your school friends. You are able to know what is the important news that are happening. You are able to do fundraising. Any emergency, you immediately know. So many people have sought for me help through Facebook before they were committing suicide or having depression, and I was able to save a lot of people. So like that, Facebook can be used for a lot of good things. Same goes with any other social media, so that you can have a lot of interaction. You can know what's happening. But where does the problem lie? The problem lies when you get addicted to it. Without seeing my likes, I had a girl who came to me saying this, I am not getting any likes for my Facebook photo. Before I used to get 500, 600 likes photo. Now, if every 3 hours you're putting your photo, you think people have no other work but to sit and like your photos. See, you put a photo once a month, people will like it. You put once in a day 3 times, then people will have other work to do, right? So you also really need to understand what you're using social media for. So I use social media to talk to people, to express my views on things, and that's it. I stick with that. I don't use social media for many other things. I'm very careful of the ads I like, the ads I sign into, and where I give my details. That is something you should do. So my take is this, I always tell all children, if you find an ad that is coming in your social media page, which is something that you didn't subscribe for, something that's not in your domain, somebody is trying to target you, there is a column there where you can report it immediately. And nowadays, they are very, very active on that. The moment you report it, that ad will not come in, and immediately Facebook will be notified. Kindly notify people if you find a scam ad. Why I will tell you this. If you don't notify, Facebook has an option where you can tag your friends of friends. So the moment they tagged me, now I am not sitting and liking that. So immediately Facebook goes to all my Facebook friends saying that, okay, maybe Kannan likes this, but he's not also would like that particular thing. So that same ad will start coming to all my friends. So you need to be very, very careful about it. So if you find something that is not this, immediately put it as misleading and scam and press the button and inform Facebook and give you a valid reason if that. That way you will be protected because that data will be stored, following which similar kind of people who try to target you will be blocked automatically through that algorithm. So my take on that is, yes, there is a lot of good also through Facebook. There is a lot of bad also happening, but please understand internet is here to stay. Social media is here to stay. It will metamorphose from Facebook to TikTok to Instagram. Maybe something new will come out next, but it will not go away because people want some format to live digitally today. Like how I live online, I want to live digitally. Digitally, what am I doing? So that's a presence that everybody today are investing in. So very sad to see newspapers have died today. Very sad. thanks to COVID, newspaper industry itself has gone down so badly that, I've never seen this in my lifetime. Hindu, a newspaper which was #1 in Tamil Nadu for so long. In their online profile, Hindu is putting, please donate to us and please support us for sustained news, which is very, very sad to see an iconic newspaper like Hindu itself putting that ad. Same goes with Times of India. So newspapers are at a very, very sad location, because of which today anybody is a newspaper. Anybody on Facebook can put something on there and he becomes a reporter today. So we have a lot of people have taken that. So you should always take it with a pinch of salt. Be aware, cross-check, cross-verify. And please, 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 my only take for all of you, if you find someone misleading and targeting, please inform the set organization and also your parents or some elders. Get them in the loop. Get your principal or somebody in the loop about it. So that if there is a problem happen, there's somebody to protect you also and help you out inside of that. Don't have this assumption, I can handle it on my own. Sometimes it can be a malware. Sometimes it can be a targeting because of a virus. Sometimes it can be somebody else who's targeting you because of something. So please be very, very careful about it. Thank you.
Absolutely, Doctor. You said the digital world is here to stay. Might as well all of us stay together, parents, teachers, so that, we are a check on each other. Now, as a child spoke about VPN, I didn't know what VPN is, but here he comes to tell me what VPN is. So I am aware of it today. So might as well all of us stay together and face things together and have the discretion of choosing what to watch, what to see, and what not to do so. We have a parent wanting to ask a question to us, Miss Lalita.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. And good evening to all of you.
Lalita ma'am's husband is here. Yes, sir.
There are two questions. One to the Honorable Superintendent of Police. This is regarding the cybercrime that we spoke about. I just would like to know the proactive measures that the police as a team is doing together with the government to take some proactive steps to kind of align with service providers and send some alerts when we find that the particular site is not trustworthy to be used, or is it something not socially acceptable to people. So are there any kind of such measures, or are there any hotlines available where we can report it immediately so that it's not too late for the police department to react and then reach so that the victim is saved, in whatever form they are in?
There is a website which was recently launched a year ago by central government. It is www.cybercrime.gov.in. Again, I repeat, cybercrime.gov.in. Initially, it was started for crime against women and children. Now it is extended to all type of cyber crimes, and it is being attended within 36 hours. The respond have to get you, you should get it either positive, or if it is a fake complaint, you will get a negative reply. So within 36 hours, you will get reply. And also you can report anonymously. You need not disclose your details while giving information. There are two things. If you give a complaint, you have to give a details, but you are divulging some information, and you can divulge an information with anonymity also. Even in TN Police website, you can report tnpolice.gov.in. I repeat, tnpolice.gov.in, where you can report the online through online medium, as well as the infrastructure is getting developed in police department also. Cybercrime being separately formed all over the state, and every district and every city is getting a dedicated cybercrime police station. So they'll be handling only the cyber offenses. So by this time next year, it will be a full-fledged cybercrime police station everywhere. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for that explanation, ma'am. Just a follow-up on that, can there be little more proactive measures to say that you align with service providers and also with the government, so that it doesn't even reach the citizens which are not acceptable, like as doctor was mentioning that some malwares and ads that are coming in. I know it's too much to protect everything, but at least to some extent where it is very serious, at least aligning with service providers and filtering it out there itself to say that it doesn't get to the citizens per se?
Yeah, as you rightly said, certain measures are definitely being taken. So many websites are being blocked. Even in child pornographic sites, it is almost blocked. And even if it is found, it is immediately getting blocked. Even the phishing calls where you get those numbers are getting blocked. The measures are being taken, but the technology is so advanced and so fast that the criminal find the other way to do an offense. Like as I said, if one website is blocked, immediately another website, the same content with another website name and domain name can be opened in fraction of seconds. So the technology is so advanced, but definitely government, police is taking action, and it is a long way to go also. As you suggest, we are doing things, but we have a long way to go ahead also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. Dr. Kannan, I find a question over there from Ishanika to you. She wants to know Ishanika, would you like to ask, please?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can. Yes, we
Go
can.
ahead.
I thank my school for giving me this wonderful opportunity to ask Dr. Kannan Gireesh a question. So my question is, why is cybercrime happening in our world? And what is the mindset of the person who does a cybercrime?
Oh, brilliant. If I knew the exact answer, I will be called as God. So it's a $1 billion question. Wherever there is I always say, wherever there is positive, there is always going to be a group of people who will do negative also. So now look at the cybercrime as such. Now, why do people do cybercrime? Number one, first is for the thrill of it. There are a lot of people who do at the thrill of fooling other people. So, there are a lot of industries that thrive on fooling people. So first is for the fun of it. Second is the criminal intent in certain people. Now, everybody is not programmed in the same format. Some people have an antisocial behavior. Some people have a criminal intent. Some people have an intention to make pain on other people. So those type of people are always. So these people could be people from troubled background. Their upbringing could be from a troubled background. They would have gone through certain things in their life. Or I have also seen people who have been cheated by the first, and then following which they started cheating other people. So that type of behavior pattern can also be that. See, the world is not a very safe place. And cyberbullying is not happening only in India or per se. It's a global phenomenon. In fact, if you go to US, it's at another extreme in the US, cyberbullying. It's another extreme. And in fact, you can see, if you want to really know what cyberbullying is, please go and visit Donald Trump's Facebook page and read the comments there. You will really see cyberbullying of the next order over there. He's bullying people. People are bullying him. People are bullying him. His fans are bullying each other. It's completely, it's completely on a different prerogative. And that's the president of a country. Can you imagine? A president of a country, of one of the topmost country in the world, how he bullies people and how people are bullying him. It's on display over there. So my take on that is cyberbullying is here to stay. Whether you like it or not, it is over here to stay. Before, when it was not cyberbullying, we had a lot of other types of bullying. In our days, what used to be? It used to be eve teasing, passing comments, lewd comments, stalking. These are the things used to be there. Now, what has happened? A lot of these online phenomena have moved into the offline space. And in the offline space, they're happening as different things. So my take is, please be aware, first and foremost. This is going to be there. Wherever you go, cyberbullying is going to. How much ever new systems we bring, there will be another set of new innovations that will come in to combat that. So it's only going to be with whether the hen came first or the egg came first. Rather than looking which came first and why it came first, let's accept both are available and let us look at how we can handle the situation. I think that's a smart way of looking. I'll give you another opportunity also. It is also a $1 billion business. Hackathon is a $1 billion industry. Hacking sites is a $1 billion career opportunity. I know hackers who are paid 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs just to hack a particular site and show whether the system is working. So there is another side to it. There is a huge thriving industry on cybersecurity. There is huge apps on cybersecurity. So there are a lot of thriving industry also because of that. So it's like you asking me, why should people fall sick if everybody eat healthy and walk healthy and do healthy stuff? They will not require hospitals in this country, which is true. which is true. But will everybody do that? No. There will be people who go the other side and this side. So cyberbullying is here to stay. It's our job to be aware of it, be careful about it, and also know how to handle it effectively if we fall to the trap. And my take on that is always, 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 always inform the elders and trusted people around you and inform that particular site that such a thing has happened. I'll tell you one simple example. A child on Facebook gave the phone number for an ad for buying a particular product which he liked. The people took that the phone number, and immediately they messaged on that phone number. Now, this happened to be the phone which the father and the child used with a credit card detail. So this child gave the credit card number without the father's knowledge. And when the message came on the phone, right, she deleted the message. Now, they told her they are withdrawing only around 3,000 rupees. So she thought it is okay. 3,000, I will tell my dad later when the product comes. Now, what happened was 2 zeros was added along with the 3,000. It ended up as a 3 lakh being going out. Immediately, the father got an intimidation on his email. By the time the father could go in and see it, it was not an Indian site. This was wire transferred to some other company. They were not able to even trace it after that. So you need to be very, 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 very careful who you're giving your data with. My take, don't give your data to anybody online. I always tell this to anybody. Don't give your data to anybody online because it's very dangerous, because once you give it, I see, like, for example, if I type my number out on my phone, it's stored in my phone memory. It's stored in all the apps that I have downloaded. It's a digital imprint that's going to stay for a long, saying that I am associated with it. So I would suggest, as children, don't get involved in it. If you want something, talk to your parents, let your parents buy it. Let your parents get it for you online. So that way you're also safe and you don't get involved in those type of murky deals. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, we have one of our teachers coming up with a question. Preeti, who will you ask me a question to? To Madam?
I would like to ask Dr. Kannan. Hello, sir. Good evening. It's wonderful listening to you both, actually. So much learning for us. So my question for you is, how can we make parents to understand even they require psychological help in terms of raising their child at this pandemic time? No?
Yes. So very, very valid question. My take is, please have multiple sessions with the parents like this. How you're having the session, a wonderful initiative by your school and Bharati ma'am and your entire team in doing this initiative. Please have more initiatives like this on varied topics. Please call experts, have a dialogue, let them talk to each other, let people talk to each other. Then only you will get into proper discussion. Give a discussion, open discussion forum. Please don't give a rules and regulations forum. The moment you give a rules and regulations forums, parents also shut down and they are also, the school is all the time like this. Create open forums, open dialogues, let people talk to each other, let people interact. Second, get the experts, talk to the experts, open the floor out, have children also inside of these conversations. So my take is that please have open discussions, open forums. And I'll tell every parent, I tell this mandatorily. I think even your school should do this. Ask every parent to go through the CBSE site on cyber safety. There is a whole thing on cyber safety. They have beautiful article over there. It's a 60-page document on cyber safety. I think it's mandatory. Every parent and every teacher must be aware of it. Now, once you're aware of it, then you can take it in small sessions with the children, create open discussions, create debates about it, and have open conversations. That's the best way you can do this. Please, please don't have a rules of the school for cyber safety. Don't have that. Because if you have that, the parents will also switch off. Have open discussions, have experts come and speak out openly. That's the best.
And that's why we have 2 experts speaking to us today.
Thank you.
Honestly. One last question from our student Gautam, Doctor. I think we are exceeding time, but I definitely want this forum to understand the purpose why we had this kind of a discussion. Gautam, your question, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So basically, my question is, I'm sure we're all aware about the scammers on internet, obviously, those Nigerian scammers and all that. So the other day, we got this email saying buy stocks in a company for from England worth around $9,200 or something. Okay. So obviously we realized that it's a scam email because the English was also broken. And also when they talk about England, they're talking in dollars. So it doesn't make that much sense. But still, I began to wonder, how did they get our number, get our email or number if they contact through number for somebody else? So my question basically is, how do they get our email or our number?
Madam, I would request you to take this, please. Ma'am, you've got to unmute.
You're mute right now.
Lavanya, madam, you've got to unmute, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Bharati ma'am, I have to appreciate your students. They talk about VPN, they talk about Nigerian scams and all those stuff. It's
My
really
children
nice.
are well
because
read. They really prepare themselves.
are really aware of things happening around. This is what is very important, more than bookish knowledge, right? They should know what's happening around. When a child talk about a Nigerian scam, I'm really happy, because the way we used to create awareness how to avoid a Nigerian scam, he is giving details, because the language is broken, because it comes from a strange email from a stranger and all that stuff. It's really awesome, Gautam. It's really good. And the thing is, how they do get the phone numbers and email addresses. How many places we have left our traces? If we have gone to Hamleys, Gautam, how many have you written your email ID and phone number to get the offers? In how many websites we have given our email IDs and phone numbers? How many food apps we are using? How many online shopping apps we are using? It is too, even since you people know technologically more, I'm saying, if you go on dark web, if you pay some amount of dollars, you will get data. Getting data about a person is not difficult. And Dr. Kannan rightly pointed out, if something is free in internet, you are the product. So you are being already sold. All your details were sold. Just your email and phone number is very easy. They know more about you. Tomorrow they are going to come softwares where they are going to predict you, what you are going to do, what will be your mood, what you will eat, what you will going to read, what you will become. If you are a cricketer, they'll say what shots you will play in the tomorrow. All these things are going to come up. It is AI and machine learning and social engineering which is coming up. And email ID and phone number is nothing, because we are giving it. You got my answer?
We are caught unawares.
Yes,
Unknowingly, we give ourselves to everyone. I'm just giving one last opportunity, because the conversation is really, really intriguing and interesting, and for parents, teachers, and us educators, I'm giving one last opportunity for anybody who wants to ask a question. Let's make it quick because we're running short of time. Does anybody, one more opportunity for anyone to ask a question, any parent, teacher, or a child? Okay, I think doctor and madam, I would like you to leave us with a message very strong. Okay, before I end, there's one. Joel, can you please ask your question? Quick. Joel, speak up.
Yes, hello, ma'am.
Yes, son, go ahead. There's the last question for the day.
I have like 3 questions.
We'll put it together and we'll ask madam and doctor to answer it.
Yeah, I typed it down in the chat box.
Good. Joel says, how do you find out if a link is connected with a backdoor? What happens when a hacker attacks a server with a virtual machine? Can we find the person before the VM is terminated? There are many ways a person can be attacked. But what if it's a perfectly planned out social engineering attack on a person? How does the person make out if it's real contact or not? Dr. Madam, I leave it to you as to who would take up this very.
I think let ma'am take it up, and then maybe if anything I can add, I'll add.
Sure. Ma'am, we need your expert.
Definitely, Dr. Kannan. I'll answer. How do we find out? This is going to be a more technological session. This is actually a real good question. This is more like, I feel like I'm taking class for students of engineering graduates, IIT students. I feel really happy, the students of this advanced level. I'm happy to answer these questions. How do we find out if a link is connected with a backdoor? See, generally, the first very primitive step is, if it is a payment gateway, it should be a secured website like HTTPS, where you even find a padlock symbol. It is very, very, very primitive way of finding out website if it is secure. Number 2 is, if it is getting from a stranger, please don't click on any link. Just because in the Google search it is coming in the first link, it doesn't mean it is a real link. It can be malicious too. So this is very important when you are using a financial transaction. Make sure you type in the website and get into the link. And there are various websites to check whether the link connects to a backdoor. There are many facilities. You can just explore it and see how to find out a backdoored link. Number 2 question is, what happens when a hacker attacks a server with a virtual machine? Can we find the person before the VM is terminated? See, there are 2 things. One is what happens when a hacker attacks a server with a virtual machine. Most of the hackers use the virtual machine. So if it is reported live and if the VPN provider cooperates with the law enforcement agency, we can very well find out a person. Most of the VPN servers, VPN providers doesn't cooperate. We never get reply because we itself doesn't know where they exist, because they exist in a virtual world. To be very hypothetical, if the VPN provider cooperates, if it is a live attack and the system admin who is monitoring the attack reports immediately, definitely we could able to crack the accused. Number 3 is, there are many ways a person can be attacked. But what if a perfectly planned out social engineering attack on a person? How does the man make out if it is real contact or not? This is like, see, if social engineering, I'll say again and again, any concept is not bad as such. It has both positives and negatives. Social engineering is as such a good concept, and it is not attack. It is about finding about you. Even now, so many matrimonial alliances are being contacted for finding out the online presence of a person, how he is, what his likes, what he dislikes, all those stuff. And also nowadays, employers are using social engineering to find about the employee, his social presence in online as well as offline, to find about what the person is. So it is not attack as such. It is about finding a person. If you want to prevent yourself being exposed to it, give minimal information as much as possible to the outside world. For example, if I think one of the parents left the conversation, left the meeting, just leaving a message like, I'm having a meeting with a US client, right? So this is the way we let out information. I'm not offensive about the parent here. I'm just giving a live example. Now I know the name of the person. Now I know what type of the person by the question he asked. What is his technological background? What is his technological knowledge and all the stuff? And now I know he is in a meeting with a US client. So now I know what he is basically just being in a Zoom meeting with him for half an hour. So this is called social engineering. This is how we let our information. If you want to restrict yourself, you can just write, I'm engaged in another work. I'm leaving the meeting. So that is where the difference lies. Now I don't have the information what he is going to do next half an hour. Now I have to explore more to find out the person. But he has let out the information about him that he has gone and meeting with a US client. Now I can narrow down his profession, what all professions possibly he can have. That is how social engineering works, and as such, it is not a bad concept. And you cannot avoid it. You cannot avoid it. If you are ordering a food, again and again, I'm saying the food app because you people do it. Now after Corona, it's becoming more food online apps. The way you order the food, you cannot hide. If you order pizza for 4 times a month, next month you will be shown option of all pizza shops near you. It'll definitely lure you to buy more pizzas. It will show different varieties in different colors, different size, different shapes. So you cannot avoid social engineering. All you can do is consciously avoid things which are sensitive, which other person need not know. That much only you can do. I hope the answer is clear.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. One final word of advice from you and doctor, and then we have to wrap up this extremely invigorating session because I think all of us are totally hooked up, not unmindful of the time. One final word of advice from doctor and you, please, to my teachers, to us teachers, parents, and children.
So who's going to start? Let ma'am start and then I'll.
Okay. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kannan. And ma'am, just one thing, two things I want to say to the children specifically. Celebrate life. Life is beyond works, online, all the stuff. Celebrate life. Enjoy every moment of life. Life is a celebration. You have to really enjoy it. And don't go by like you are in 10th standard, you are in 12th standard, you have studied this much, that much, nothing like that. You have to know what's happening around you. Learn lots of things around you. What's going on now? You should be able to tell what is US election all about, how the president is being selected. You should know all those things. Not only what is the Newton's third law, what is being taught in the class today. What is the algebra equation, what is taught in the class today. Don't restrict your knowledge with that. Explore the world and celebrate your life. And as far as this session is concerned, I just want to say one thing. Use the technology. Don't let the technology use you. You should use the technology. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Kannan sir. Nice talking to you, and students and children. My love to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Doctor?
So my last is 5 S's. Okay, write down all of you. 5 S. Okay. First S is safety. Whatever you're doing, be safe. That's most important. It's better to be safe than sorry. Second, be secure. Know where you're giving your details. So first is safety. Second S is security. These two are fundamentally critical. Third S is simplicity. What is simplicity? Don't complicate things. Things are get complicated. Make it simple. I'm going to social media for what? Entertainment. Stick with a little entertainment and come out of it at the right time. Don't make that entertainment your life. Then what happens is a big problem. You are going in for a big trouble. When you go there, you simply define why you're going to that particular site, what you're going to do. That's it. So safety, secure, this thing, and then is simplicity. The next thing is I want all of you to understand is social. What is social? Social, the term social is to be social. And the first people you have to be social is your family first. Friends next, who are physical. Now that is not that, then only comes the social media part. So now it is the reverse. Social media first, family last. Now don't go in that order. So have your family, that's most important, your parents, spending time with these people, and always understand children are children only for a very short period of time. You are in this position only for a short period of time. How you use this time will determine what you will become in future. So use this time very, very clearly. And the last S I want to tell all of you is smile. You are not going to take back anything when you are going to die. So the best thing you can take back is create beautiful memories by smiling. And I would conclude with a small story. In 1669, there was the global plague flu pandemic in London, and everything was locked down for 2 years. So there was this group of students from Trinity College and Cambridge College and Oxford College who were very frustrated because they have to now go back and live with their parents or someplace, and their freedom is gone and throttled, and there's a lockdown and everything. So all of them went. Lot of them started to drink, and they became addicted to drinking, drugs, all sorts of things. They became addicted. A couple of students decided to read, and a very, very small set of students decided what I can contribute after what I read. And once the plague got over, one guy came out with what he had created and presented as a thesis paper in Trinity College. And that thesis paper is today called as calculus. Your calculus was created in the 1669 global pandemic, which is the plague pandemic in London, by none other than Sir Isaac Newton.
My God.
The person I'm talking is about Isaac Newton. So it is not about what happened. It is about what you do about that what happened. That defines who you are. Now, Isaac Newton also could have drunk like his friends. Isaac Newton also could have gambled, go around and done all sorts of things. But Isaac Newton chose to focus on what he can do inside of that pandemic, how he can make maximum productive use of himself. And that's what he created. So that's in your hands. So all of you are having the gift of what Isaac Newton had at that time. Just use that gift in the right direction. When you use it in the right direction, then you get the right impact and the right results. God bless you all. Thank you so much, Bharati ma'am. Thank you so much, Lavanya ma'am. It's a great honor and privilege. If there's any cases, I will definitely connect with you, Lavanya ma'am. And thank you to the wonderful students for being so proactive, so energetic, and all of, being so enthusiastic. And the questions you asked, I was itself thinking, in the lockdown, our children have grown so much. Now I also have to learn all of this and grow, because tomorrow I'll be getting cases on VPN. And if I don't know what VPN is, I might think something else. So for us, VPN is ventilation, pressure, naturality. That is what we are thinking in a lockdown. VPN is. And now there's so much more to VPN. So now I need to now really educate myself about this VPN and all that. Thank you all. It has been educative for me. Learned a lot. Thank you all, and God bless all of you all. Looking forward to more opportunities like this to interact with all of you all. Thank you, Bharati ma'am, and
thank you, doctor, and thank you, ma'am. As you said, one plague a Newton came up. So 2020, I'm sure many of my Hindustan children will be remembered as wonderful products because of the questions. You've seen it yourself. You are witness to yourself, the kind of thinking that is happening. But I must say, you both have added so much of value to our children and parents at Hindustan. I cannot thank you enough, but my heartfelt gratitude for both of you for enlightening us on the good and bad of the world, of the cyber world. And this session means a lot to all of us. So Dr. Kannan and Madam Lavanya, wishing you both great times ahead and success in your respective professions. Keep inspiring us, keep enlightening us, and a big, big thank you from all of us at Hindustan International Schools. And children and teachers and parents, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great weekend and keep thinking about all that has been spoken today. It will definitely mean a lot to us, and we will be more clear in our thoughts and our words and our deeds. So thank you, everyone. And signing off, have a great weekend. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.